Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Kat. So I've received some really awesome questions for this talk. So definitely a lot of the questions ended up shaping up to be more of health-related questions, a lot of questions about macros. So that's what we're going to dive into. So the first question I received is, why do we track macros over calories? If I'm hitting my calorie goal, what does it matter what form I intake? So let's go over a little macros 101. So when you're tracking your macronutrients, the reason why it is more effective to track macros over calories. So when you're looking at, say, a calorie recommendation of, say, 100 calories of peanut butter versus 100 calories of, let's say, bread, you're going to get a lot more volume. Let's say you're going to get a lot more bread than you are going to get peanut butter. But the reason that this is not going to, say, help you achieve your health and fitness goals, so say if your goal is to lean out, lose body fat percentage, or if your goal is to gain muscle, or whatever it may be, if you're unaware of the quantities of the macronutrients that you're intaking, you're not going to reach that goal. So the reason why it's important for you to track your macronutrients over your calories is, say if you have 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of fat is actually 9 calories. 1 gram of protein or 1 gram of carbohydrates is actually 4 calories per gram. So calorically, a gram of fat is more dense than protein or carbohydrates. So it says, I'm having trouble hitting both my calories and my macros. I seem to be generally under my calorie percentage wise, but doing well with macros. Which should I be trying more so? And so the last question kind of answered that. I want you to focus on hitting your macronutrient ratios first. And if the calories are a little bit off, I mean, say if you hit your macros perfectly, technically the calories should be dead on, but not all of us are math whizzes, and I'm not asking you to hit those numbers perfectly. So as long as you're getting within the range of percentages, closer to the percentages, and your calories are a little bit off, that's totally fine. So the reason why I'm having you track macros over calories is to really just make sure you're getting a balanced intake. So it would be easy to say, okay, I'm going to fill 1900 calories of pizza and junk food and chips, and the end of the day, nutritionally, you're not going to be hitting your protein amount. You're probably going to be way over on fat, way over on carbohydrates, and probably not hitting that protein goal. And in order for you to feel satiated, in order for you to retain muscle mass, you need to be hitting that protein recommendation. So it is important to track macros over calories, but I will say at a certain point, my hope for all of my clients is to get to more of a point of intuitive eating. So once you've tracked macros long enough, hopefully you'll start to see how your day breaks down and you'll no longer really have to continue to track. If you have major fitness goals and you want to achieve them in a certain amount of time, tracking macros is very helpful. So I'm so used to eating a low carb diet. The new carb goal has me in a conundrum. How do I meet a higher carb goal without going over on fat? So some really great options are things like rice cakes, roasted vegetables. Fruit is another thing where you can get a nice carb intake without getting any fat at all. So if you've been trained beforehand and thinking that if I want to lose weight, I have to eat less, it can be kind of counterintuitive to feel like, okay, I have to be eating more. But start to really look at the macro breakdowns of foods, and I think that you will be surprised that you can find carbohydrates sans the fat in unprocessed foods. So a lot of like processed packaged foods that are more carb driven tend to have a lot of fat in them because it makes it taste better. If you add butter, if you add oil, of course they're going to taste better, but you can hit that carb recommendation by grains like rice, quinoa, rice cakes, fruit, vegetables, things like that. So why do I want so much sugar right now? So something that a lot of people don't realize about sugar, and something that I've learned more about, is that sugar actually highlights the same parts of your brain that cocaine does. How crazy is that? But in a way, so the more you have it, the more your body craves it and wants it, and then you'll go through a sugar crash. So if you don't have enough of it, you're gonna feel like shit and want more of it. So I would say trying to kind of do a sugar detox in a way. I don't love the word detox, but kind of avoiding processed sugar for about 7 days can be really helpful to kind of reset your palate. It took me a while to like stop needing sugar in my coffee and things like that, but I found that the more sugar the more sugar that sneaks its way into my diet, the more I end up wanting it. So especially around holidays when you're having more candy or an excess of sugar that you don't normally have, then your brain starts to go through this cycle and goes, oh, I want more, because it's used to that peak, that glycemic peak, and it does all these fun things for your brain, and then your brain's like, okay, I want more. Best places to go or grab things in the store quickly when you forget your lunch at home but don't have enough time to drive and get it. So I have a couple things that I really highly recommend doing. And head to Starbucks, and I feel like they're everywhere, and the protein box is a really good option. The fruit and cheese little box is a nice option. If you have a grocery store nearby, you can always go and grab a rotisserie chicken and eat like the breast and some of the meat, and then stick it in the fridge at your work, and then you have dinner or maybe lunch for the next day. You can also grab a thing of hummus and pre-cut vegetables to dip in like the hummus. But I would say grocery stores are generally a better option. You can always grab a small thing of lunch meat and some sugar snap peas, things like that, instead of going and hitting the drive-through. I'll also put the link below of my cat approved fast food, so if you really are in a pinch, those are some options. So should we adjust our macro calories as we lose weight or adjust our goals? So I would say you should adjust your macros every 3 to 6 weeks. So if you're in the groups and if you're in a part of one of my challenges, I provide macro recommendations regularly. So if you're in the monthly challenges, you're going to be filling out a recommendation at the beginning of every month. If you're a custom training client of mine, we can adjust macros at any time. But there are a lot of really great websites with macronutrient calculators. I like If It Fits Your Macro at iifym.com. I'm going to put it right here. You can adjust your macronutrient goal there. And I think it's important for you to take responsibility for your own health and start to figure things out on your own. So I don't want clients to feel like, oh, I can only get my macros adjusted by my coach, but it is really helpful to have another set of eyes to kind of look at things, because for certain clients, depending on their lifestyle, I will bump up the grams of carbohydrates, or I'll lower the protein if they're a vegan or a vegetarian or something like that. So it is really helpful to have a professional adjust your macro recommendation, but if you're, say, in the middle of a challenge and you want to make a little bit of a change, it can be helpful. Do prisoner squats become less effective if you can squat with a decent amount of weight on a barbell or a kettlebell, for example? So yeah, as you build strength and some of those body weight exercises, I would say things beforehand that were a more intense, hardcore type of circuit for me now kind of are more of a warm-up before I start adding more weight. But what I will say is, in those low weight types of situations, if you bump up the volume, so say if you don't have a weight with you, or if you're on vacation and you're generally lifting more, you'd be surprised how some of those high volume squats can start to really burn as you get into those higher rep amounts. So say if you have been doing challenges with me for a long time, or if you have been doing workouts for a long time and you're noticing that things aren't feeling as hard, it is time to bump up the intensity. You do need to continue to be challenged in order to change, so you will gain strength. So I will say, in a way, certain body weight exercises will start to lose their effectiveness as you gain strength. So you, in that time, should probably add some form of resistance, whether it be with a weight or barbell or resistance bands. So I hate chicken and I'm getting burnt out on lean turkey. Suggestions for mixing it up. So I will have a steak occasionally. I will order tofu occasionally, and I get the like, oh, are you a vegetarian? No, I do like to change up my protein sources. So I would say start to shop around, see if there's a fish that you maybe like to try, see if there's different recipes. A lot of times I'll get burnt out more on the way I'm preparing something. So if it's that I've been broiling it, sometimes just doing a different marinade and putting it on the grill instead, or doing it pan sauteed, like things like that, just changing up the way I'm preparing my food can make a big difference. But I would say start to adventure out with your protein, and it could be vegetarian proteins, it can be more fish, or red meat. I would say don't fear red meat. I would say just consume it in a balanced way. So is it really necessary to eat or drink protein after a workout? Does it really make that big of a difference? I would say yes, it does make a big difference, because in that point your body is able to synthesize the protein, it's able to put it to use. So when you have depleted your muscles, they need to be replenished. So having protein after your workout does exactly that. So I would say, yes, it does make a really big difference to have your protein after, and you should definitely make it a priority to do so. What are the best foods to eat when you were sick? All I wanted was shitty carbs and gave in and ate them. So sometimes, honestly, when you're sick, you do have to just kind of listen to what your body needs. And I would say, if anything, just focus on recovery and focus on trying to intake as much fluid as possible. But I wouldn't stress so much about what you should or shouldn't be eating. Mom kind of knew best. I feel like a really great homemade chicken noodle soup is always a great option, and you do get your carbs with the noodles in there, but the bone broth from the chicken can be really helpful as far as making you feel better. I hope you enjoyed another episode of Coffee with Kat. I'm always happy and excited to answer your health and fitness questions, so if you have them, leave them in the comments below, or you can always send them to me in a direct message on Instagram. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe.